Link on. Timer off.
AA6DP repeater.
QST, it's 9 p.m. or 2100 hours, and another adventure of the Net at 9. Amateur Radio Wellness and Support Net is in the process of starting. This net is offered by the Catalina Amateur Repeaters Association, or CARA, for ham radio operators everywhere and anywhere that the footprint of the repeater can be heard by its many operators. I'm Tom, call sign Whiskey 6 Echo Tango Charlie. I'll be tonight's net control operator. I'll pause briefly for any important or urgent traffic and can then continue on with the beginnings of the CARA Net at 9 Wellness and Support Net programming. Good evening, one and all. Net at 9 will be running approximately an hour to an hour and a half tonight. I want to thank CARA and its board of directors who have been so kind enough to link their 2-meter and 1.25-meter repeaters for tonight's net. The Catalina repeaters are open repeaters which can be used by any licensed amateur radio operator that can pick up its signal from that big airport in the sky above Santa Catalina Island, or on the top of Santa Catalina Island, can't be above it. Operators are asked to remain in compliance to FCC rules and regulations, follow net control instructions, and operate in a courteous and respectful manner towards one another. To be clear, you do not need to be a CARA member to participate in this net, and I invite all operators that are able to hear my voice to participate. This is a great hobby and a great opportunity to have a conversation. So stand by for further instructions. For tonight's net, CARA has linked their 2-meter and 1.25-meter repeaters together. In addition, operators who would like to connect to us through digital mode or digital methodology, such as Echolink or All-Star, can do so. If you have the Echolink link or the All-Star node, Echolink, the link for Echolink is star Catalina star, and for All-Star, the node number is number 51597. So stand by, as I'll be asking for operator call signs and first names in just a moment or two. As I just mentioned, to participate in this evening's net, all you need to do is to check in with your call sign, name, and location. And following the check-in process, we typically will go for 2 rounds, where the first round is more or less an open forum. Talk about what's on your mind, talk about how your weekend went. Perhaps even let us know what you have plans for the week, especially your ham radio plans, upcoming ones. And following the first round and checking for additional check-ins, will begin our second round, where our second round we typically will discuss a ham-related topic. Now, this is available if you have available to any operator's idea of what they would like to talk about. And in ham radio, there's no such thing as a dumb ham radio question. So we, encourage your ham radio-related questions. If you have an idea or a topic in mind, maybe something you're struggling with or something that's ham radio related, hey, why don't you let us know when you're checking in, and we'll put that on our list, and who knows, your question, your thoughts may become the second round topic. I have prepared one just to be, prepared for tonight, just in case, but nonetheless, I'd rather hear from our operators out there with those burning questions. So to expedite the check-in instructions, I will be grouping check-ins by specific operator types and/or locations. So when asked to do so, announce your call sign phonetically, followed by your first name and location. Now, it would also be very helpful that you give us, again, your call sign phonetically. So call sign first name phonetically, and in talking with us and giving that, when you're asked to do so, do so slowly and clearly. I write everything down, your name, your call sign, your name, and location. So keep that in mind when giving that. Don't rush. I'll do the best I can to make sure everybody is included in tonight's conversation. Much obliged. Stand by 1 moment. Okay, one thing I wanted to also mention, and I'm about ready to start the check-ins. If you're a new ham or new to this net, let me know when you're checking in so all of us can welcome you to this net in some way or another. And if you're an operator out there listening and only able to listen, not able to talk much, why don't you go ahead and check in as well and let me know that you want to listen or be on the side. That way, myself and the Cara board can have an idea of what the audience looks like. We want to make sure that we're, be able to provide the right type of services, the right type of interest, meeting the interests and needs of the ham radio community. So let's begin. All operators coming to us through Echolink or All-Star operators, and I would also like to include mobile operators who are out and about, such as truck drivers or operators, and those have a very short window of time. I want to make sure you put up front so everybody has an opportunity to share what's on your mind. Echolink All-Star, mobile drivers, mobile operators, or those with a short window of time, check in now. Call sign, first name. One more time, Echolink or All-Star operators, please check in now. Call sign, first name. Now that's interesting. We normally get a few, so we'll continue on. Operators who operate out of Los Angeles or Orange County, check in now. Call sign and first name.
Kilo Bravo 6, Tango Kilo Alpha, Jim at Tustin. November 6th, Mexico, Germany, Milt, Roland Heights. Hello, everybody.
KB6TKA Jim, got you, Milt N6MG. Any other operator, Los Angeles or Orange County, please check in now. Call sign, first name.
Alpha Juliet 6, Tango Lima, Steve in San Pedro.
KD4STN, Joe in Santa Monica.
Just heard Steve out there, AJ6TL, and Dr. Joe, KD4STN. Good evening, gentlemen. Any other operators, LA, Orange County, check in now. Call sign, first name. All right, stations outside of LA, Orange County, any and all distant stations or any and all late check-ins, please check in now. Call sign, first name.
Good evening, Tom and the group. Kilo Golf 6, India, Yankee, November. Bruce in San Diego, we're on the side. Kilo November 6, India, Papa Whiskey, Dan, Oceanside.
World famous KG6IYN Bruce, good evening, sir. I have you on the side. Thanks for checking in. Always good to hear from you. Dan, KN6ITW, Oceanside, got you as well. All right, last call before we begin round one. Got a nice small group here tonight. Any operator anywhere that I haven't acknowledged at this point, please check in now. Call sign, first name.
November 6, Quebec, Alpha, Papa, Mark, in Grand Terrace.
KF6LEX, Chris, Garden Growth.
KM6OJB, Joe, Rancho Cucamonga.
KD6 JBL, Jerry Fountain Valley.
N7CYG, Martin, near LAX.
All right, hopefully I picked up where I left off here. We've got Mark, N6QAP. Good evening. Chris, KF6LEX. We've got Joe, KN60JB. Jerry, KD6JBL. And Martin, N7CYG. Any other operators that I haven't acknowledged yet, please check in now. Call sign and first name. Okay. This excellent group here tonight. Good to hear from you all. Let's start with Jim, KB6TKF, Tustin. How goes it tonight, Jim?
Good evening, Tom and the net. It's going good there. Not too much going on. Went on my bike ride this morning, waved at you a couple times, but just got the backside of your house, so you probably didn't see me. But other than that, didn't do much. Just sat around out in the garage and waved at people went by and talked to a couple of my neighbors and trying to do a little HF stuff there. Wasn't much going on. So let's see what else. That's about it. KB6TK, back to the group.
Well, you're above the ground line, and that's what counts. And it's always good to see you, Jim. Thanks for being a great fellow giver for the ham community and for your excellent cookies. Jim's a great baker and a good birdhouse maker. Man of many talents. Thanks, Jim. Milt, N6MG. How's it going, sir? And by the way, great net this morning. Thanks for handling things. And it was very interesting. N6MG, W6, CTC.
Yeah, W6ETC in the net, N6MG returning. Well, it was a net and filled up a slot, and always good, always nice visiting with everybody. Had a few new check-ins and things like that. And so at any rate, just a B-flat kind of a day over here. Didn't do much, just piddled around. Made a repair on my HF amplifier. I put new tubes in it and wanted to replace the plate cap, which is kind of important too. But that's about it. Got it back, moved back inside, and got the 220 volts hooked back up to it, and ready for to piddle around in the CQ Worldwide CW contest coming up this weekend. Guys, get a chance. It's a real hoot. And so that's about it. And, you don't really need to know a lot of CW to do it, as long as you know your own call sign, And that's about it. So back to net. Again, good evening, everybody. W6ETC in the net, N6MG.
Sometimes for those of us who operate primarily phone, we sometimes ignore the CW aspect of it, and that's an area that we should, be aware of. And if you have a chance, just like Uncle Milt here happens to say, try and visit that this weekend if you can. And some of the rigs out there are capable of decoding CW as well. If you need some assistance or help with that, a little more information, let us know during some of our nets. Milt and other operators who do operate CW might be able to help steer you, might be able to help, guide you into maybe the best way to kind of look into this. You don't know unless you try, right? Unless you look into this, and information is king. Thanks, Milt. Thanks for letting us know about that, and keep us informed throughout the week. Remind us of the contest. Steve, AJ6 Tango Lima. How goes it, Steve?
It's going well, thank you, and good evening to the net. Not a whole lot going on with me, especially ham radio-wise. I've been really pretty much preoccupied with family duties and, getting ready for the holidays and just a lot of things that need to get done. So got about a half a dozen tasks that I want to get done ham radio-wise, and I didn't get a single one done, started, or even funded. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, that's about it. I'll keep it short. AJ6 Tango Lima, back to net.
Yeah, we can all relate to that, Steve, for sure. We have a lot of projects in mind. Sometimes certain obstacles can come along the way, funding, understanding, planning. In fact, part of what I was going to talk about tonight on Second Round has a little bit to do about that planning aspect of it. And sometimes overthinking something and sometimes not thinking it through. Well, that might be. All right, Dr. Joe, KD4SCN, how goes it, sir?
Doing well. I enjoyed Milt's net this morning. I accessed it on Echo Link. And then Dawn, Whiskey 6 ZZW, had the Radio Net LA Vet 12 noon net, so I was able to join that and had a nice discussion. Milt was out and about in mobile mode and was able to come into the net. Otherwise, just getting ready for Gobble Day and just kind of reminiscing with the family tonight that when growing up as a kid, we used to hunt pheasant this time of year and have some pheasant for Thanksgiving. But anyways, with that, looking forward to it. I'm going to be doing a homeless outreach program Thursday morning, so I'll be up early. I'll probably miss the Macy's Day Parade, but I'll record it, and we're going to do some vaccinations and some feeding the homeless Thursday morning. So with that, looking forward to the rest of the net. KD4SCN, back to net control.
That's awesome, Dr. Joe. The service you provide to your community in more ways than one. And that's something that, we can all learn from, the standard you set. Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Joe. Appreciate that. And you mentioned the net that Don, Whiskey 6 Zulu Whiskey, and you and a few others have been involved in, and that's out of an LA repeater. And for those who would like more information about this net, this is radionet.vet. Check it out on their website, radionet.vet, VET. It's one of its focuses is to work with the veterans, U.S. veterans out there, and encouraging them to get involved into ham radio. And all of us can play a part. If you're able to connect with the repeater, that's out of L.A., the Veterans Association, or the veteran location there. You can find out more on their website. That would be radionet.vet. Joe, did I get that right, Dr. Joe?
QSL, it's 447.320, and it's offsets 103.5 for anybody interested.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Appreciate that. I have Bruce, IYN, on the side. Next, I see Dan of Oceanside, KN6, IPWW6ETC.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me tonight and hosting the net. It's one of the great things I look forward to in the evening. Just a short week at work this week for those, for me, that's still working. And getting ready for a trip to a work trip to Seattle next Sunday, right after the Thanksgiving holiday. And I wanted to ask a couple questions. I did catch a little bit of a net that was going on a little bit ago, maybe an hour or two ago. I just heard Monday Night Net. Can you tell what that's about? And what was the other question? I can't remember it now, but thanks for the VetNet. I'm going to check into that. Other than that, getting ready for Thanksgiving and going to house sit this week for my landlords. They have a big white Pyrenees dog that we love, and that dog loves my little dog, so we're going to go over and use their hot tub and have a nice time over at their place for the next week. It's just going to be the lady and I for Thanksgiving. Our kids have gone to, they've taken some trips, so But thanks for hosting, and yeah, if you could just tell me what the Monday night net's about, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. KN6IPW.
Thank you, Dan. That's a great question. And by the way, if you think of the other question throughout the net, it might pop into your mind. Just identify with your call sign. We'll try and come back to you. But Dan, that is every Monday at 7 p.m. Kara has a basically net that's a check-in net. You basically check in with your call sign and your name into Kara. It's a very large net. Usually 50, 60 people will check in. They break it down by either members and non-members alike. Everybody has an opportunity to check into the Kara Monday night net. Not to be confused with the Kara net at 9 amateur radio wellness and support net. That's 10 times a week, Monday through Friday, the one you're on right now. So that's the answer there. And for more information about the different nets, you can check it out on Kara's website. That's cara.radio. Repeat, cara.radio. And by the way, here's a heads up. Second round topic might be coming up, and the topic I chose gave an example of a power box that I built, ham radio power box. It would be on the Kara Net at 9 Facebook page, not their website. It's on our Facebook page. Search Kara, C-A-R-A, Net at 9. That's net with the @ sign 9. And I put out a few pictures there and the trouble I ran into. All right, Mark, N6QAP, Grand Terrace. Hey, great to hear from you. I also heard you on the Monday night net for Kara. How goes it, sir?
Hi, Tom and the net, W6ETC, and this is N6QAP coming from Grand Terrace. Name is Mark, M-A-R-K. It's been a good day. Let's see, got a phone call from my wife and some pictures. She wanted to know what was going on. She's out in Kauai, and so she sent a number of pictures of 2 of our children and their families, and most of them were in the water, and there were some palm trees in the background, a lot of big rocks, a little rockier there. They're at the Princeville Resort, and she told me that it's not as nice as the place we had in Maui. You just walk out and you're there in Maui. She says you have to take a car to go out to the beach. So anyway, she's there and I'm here, take care of the dog, and I'm going to take care of my oldest son. He's going to come over. He's not that he can't take care of himself at 48, but anyway, he's coming over, and I asked him, do you want me to make a loaf or something, you know, a little fancy for Thanksgiving, not make a turkey, but, you know, he said, no, I'll just have some cup of noodles. But that's my son. He's kind of funny. I can't think of anything else to say, but 73 to all, and I'm standing by, and back to you, Tom. N6QAP from Grand Terrace on 30 watts and might drop to 10. What do you think?
To respond to your last question, Mark, you've got a good clear signal right now, so you decide what you want to do, and we'll report back if you want to drop the power. And dropping a power on it, you're not on an HT, but if you're on an HT, dropping the power sometime is not the best thing. Sometimes you might disappear. Nonetheless, you did mention a couple of things, and I'm not necessarily talking about you, Mark, but you did bring to mind a thought, and this is kind of a spontaneous thought, which can be very dangerous for me. If some of our operators are out there that are alone and feeling isolated during the Tom Turkey holiday, you should let us know. I'm going to give you, my intention is to give you my email address, and you never know, we might be able to hook you up with a fellow operator or a family or whatever, so you don't feel so isolated. One of the main purposes of Net at 9 especially which started during the onset of the pandemic, was those who felt isolated, those who felt alone, had a place that they could, a place where they could have conversation with other fellow hams who are of like mind, that we can encourage and uplift one another. And that's really what one of the primary goals for Net at 9 is to encourage one another. So thanks for kind of bringing that to mind, Mark. Appreciate that. Speak of someone who's encouraging, got Chris coming up next, KF6 LEX. Chris?
All right there, Tom and the group. Tom, I think you got the pictures of my green battery box there. Feel free to post those on the Cara Facebook as well there. And that's been sitting there since field day. I mean, what's that, like 4 months ago, 5 months, whatever? I just put a meter on it there. It's still showing 13.5 volts. I haven't touched it since field day there. So it's amazing how the lithium batteries hold their charge. Speaking of batteries there, I've got the two motorcycles. The old one's 2015 model, the new one's a 2020. The 2015 model, the battery died. I think a cell went bad. And I didn't want to get a new battery for that one. I didn't get a lot of use, so I took the battery out of my 2020 and transplanted it into the 2015, and I got a shiny new battery for the 2020 model. So played musical batteries, everybody got an upgrade. I was hoping the old battery I took out would be enough to power radio. I think it's toast, so I'll have to turn that in for a cord charge there. But I tried. ETC from KF6LEX.
I'll try and do that, Chris. Get that, share that with people on our Facebook page. It is, very well thought out. It is a very snug fit the way you made that case work, and considering what its purpose is, I think that'll give you a lot of good service. Good job there, Chris. Appreciate sharing that. And also, I posted. I'm not sure which one is right. My latest creation for a 40 amp hour lithium battery box case power supply, yada yada. And that's in part what we might be talking about tonight by the looks of this. So not necessarily talking about my case, but maybe the adventures of building one, and building something ham related is actually what it's about. It's not about battery boxes, so don't worry. Hope I'm not going to lose you all because I said the word battery. I know we beat it to death sometimes, but we do try to come up with some original content when all possible. Thank you, Chris. KN6OJB, Joe, Rancho Cucamonga. Great to hear from you. How goes it?
This is Joe, KM6OJB. Good evening, Tom and everyone on the net. So today I went and enjoyed my first love of radio, which is radio control aircraft. And so I went out to the field that I am a member of, and myself and one other person, we enjoyed the company and the time flying our planes. Afterwards, I went over to the in-laws' house and met up with my wife and her folks, and we had lunch and visited for a while before wife and I came home. So that pretty much took up 90% of the day. So anyways, that's where we're at. We had dinner and just been relaxing. KM6OJB, back to Tom.
This is Tom, Whiskey 6 Echo Tango Charlie. Joe, it sounds to me like you had a good day. I mean, flying radio control aircraft like you did. You had an opportunity to kind of do what you enjoy doing, and that's a double blessing right then and there. So glad to hear that worked out for you here today. The weather was, I'm fairly certain, pretty good for you. And speaking of weather, I know our air quality over the weekend, especially yesterday and the day before, was smoky here. I don't know where the fires are at or if it's still going on. I don't have any updates on that. But I know here in Tustin the air quality was much better than it was over the weekend. In fact, we had family over on the weekend, and the air quality was so bad we had I had 4 little ones running around in the house. They were supposed to be running around outside. Couldn't do that. We're not used to that type of noise. All right, it's Mr. Jerry, KD6JBL, the infamous and famous net control operator for the Keller Peak Red Eye Net. How goes it?
Hey, good evening. KD6JBL Jerry. You must want an upgrade in cookies or something. That was pretty heavy. Anyway, I didn't do a whole lot today. I'm kind of cruising into Thanksgiving. Stuck around the house and then went out and mailed a few pieces of mail and stopped by the bank. Didn't get any place there. I wanted to deposit one of the checks for an ATM. They wouldn't accept it, and I'm not sure why. So I'll have to call where the check came from and inquire. Curious minds want to know what's going on. But anyway, that was about it for the day. I had leftover linguine and for dinner, and nothing for breakfast. Actually, nothing for lunch either. I wasn't that hungry all day long, and it finally caught up to me about early dinner time, 3 o'clock or so. I had linguine. The dog's in the shack. He's had 2 meals, of which he couldn't wait to get, and then he's been outside. So he should be in good shape. All right, thanks for the net. I'll be here for the second round, hopefully. KD6JBL, back to you.
I'm trying to put a mental note on that, Jerry, to catch you before 10. It's a good chance, nonetheless. Martin, N7CYG, how goes it, sir?
Yeah, good evening, N7CYG. Not much going on here. Cleaned up my R7 vertical Cushcraft that's almost 30 years old. Seems to be working again. And I have a request. Maybe somebody out there can help me. I'm looking for a gin pole. Willing to pay rent to use it. To bring a couple of sections of towers down. And maybe some hams listening have no clue what a gin pole is. That's about it on this end. And 7CYG.
Okay, gin pole. Request here from a ham near LAX that would like to borrow one. Basically, I think more or less a simple handheld extension of human arms to help push a mast into the vertical position for anchoring or for guide wire connection, so on and so forth. So if anyone's got one out there, maybe you might say something during the net, or if you have any further questions, either you, Martin, or anyone else on the net, I hopefully remember to give my email address for communications so we can connect the dots, so to speak. So appreciate that. And 30-year-old Chris Craft antenna. Good to hear that you got it cleaned up. It's something how the weather can have an effect on, especially the older, sometimes the more, the better built equipment, get it back into fine condition and great, and maybe many more years of service. Sounds great. All right, this is a great time to talk with any other operators who might be late check-ins. You're listening to Net at 9, Amateur Radio Wellness and Support Net. It's a great time to check in if you haven't done so with your call sign and first name. Please speak slowly and clearly.
Alpha Delta 4, Alpha Lima, Doug, Oceanside.
Rick, and I'll be with you as much as I can, but I've got some other things to take care of around the house tonight.
Kilo Golf 6, Golf India Alpha David Orange.
All right, on this last round I heard Doug 84AL and Rick, you were doubled with someone. Can I get your call sign, Rick?
Roger that. It's Kilo 6, Echo Uniform Hotel.
Thought that was you. And we also had Dave, KG6GIA. Good evening, gentlemen. All right, we'll go right to Doug, 84AL. How goes it?
Yes, this is Doug, 84AL in Oceanside. Well, good evening to everybody on the net, and I had a pretty good day today. Started off with a walk this morning, as I usually do, and had a good bit of exercise in. Not sure what my total steps are for the day. I think it's over 11,000 because I went shopping also with my wife this afternoon to get a few last-minute items for Thanksgiving. And she said that if we don't have everything that we need, that'll be it. That's what we're going to have. So I hope we have everything we need for our Thanksgiving dinner. I think we do. Got a lot of good stuff. And so looking forward to that. And, you know, after my walk, I sunned myself around lunchtime for about 45 minutes. That was good. I had a good bit of sun about, I don't know, 11 to 11:45. So that's when the sun is pretty much at its highest, is about 11:35. So anyway, that's about it for me. I've been listening to the net, kind of half listening to the net, and I've been playing through my book of etudes on flute. I've got a book of etudes that are very good and very hard to play. You know, they're very hard to play musically because it's supposed to work on your technique. And man, a lot of these etudes kick my butt, but I know that it's improving my playing. So that's why I play them now and then, just to try to improve. But yeah, they're good for you, those etudes. Anyway, 84AL, back to net.
Sounds like a plan. You know, practice make perfect. You're a fine musician. Appreciate that, Doug. Rick, KK6EUH.
Good evening. Things going on around here are planning for the day after Thanksgiving get-together to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And trying to clean up my ham shack so that I can actually work in here better because I'm rearranging things. That's about it from here. KK6EUH.
Awesome. From the Net at 9 NCO team to you and yours, happy 50th anniversary. That's quite a milestone. I hope you have a really enjoyable time. So that's great, Rick. Congratulations. David, KG6GIA, out of Orange.
KG6GIA, Dave here with the sleepy sled dog by my feet, and got a HT here with a 5/8 wave on it. Looks ridiculous. Feel like I'm holding a fishing pole. We had those fires you were talking about. We had two of them out here. One was up by Jerupa and another one in Ukiah. One was a tire fire, a tire lot fire. The other was a couple of kids off-roading in a sports car, lit up a big thing of wood chips, a couple acres of it. So, yeah, it was pretty nasty. It kind of smelled good, but then it didn't. And, see, I'm just kind of resting up for Turkey Day there with the extended family we haven't seen in 2 years. And I also built a battery system for ham radio during COVID that's on a dolly, and I don't know if I ever sent one out to you or your brother, a picture of it, but it had a solar panel, a car battery, and then a unique jumper system battery box that was industrially made that taps into the whole system, plus a controller, extra controller. And it's been out there 2 years, runs fine. It's a pretty much beat up old car battery that I took out of the Jeep, and I forgot our fine Dr. Ham Radio friend there with the vets. Wow, more power to you. I might eventually have some radios for the vets down the road there if I can get them working again. But what a great thing. A lot of vets in my family and my wife's family. So back over to you there, Tom. Interested to see what you built. KG6GIA, and congrats on that wedding anniversary there, sir.
See, Rick, KK6EUH, when you share some of the milestones like you just did. We all are in there rooting for you, and again, congratulations to you. All right, I've reached the end of my list, not necessarily the end of my rope here for the first round. And Jerry, I'm going to bring you probably to the top of the list here, since I know you have the Keller Red-Eye net to go to. So do we have any other operators that would like to check in tonight? Now's the time. Last call for the first round. Operator, call sign, first name. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I built a new 12-volt DC battery power box that would run my mobile radio while operating on the Net at 9 Wellness and Support Net. This was the largest battery that I've had to date. I started with 12-volt, 40-amp-hour Bio-NO Power lithium iron phosphate battery, and installed this into a heavy-duty Harbor Freight case. I took image shots of it and put it on the Net at 9 Facebook page in case you're interested. And believe you me, it is nothing perfect. It meets the needs, and I built it to meet a need, as well as not only to power my radio, but also to power maybe USB, through USB, not only Anderson power pole through, but also USB charge my phone, run a laptop, run an iPad, etc., etc. Well, after I built this, I happened to be talking to some fine folks over at Bio-NO Power and mentioned this and shared a picture of it. And something was said with regards to one of the items that were connected to it. Stand by. Out of suggestion, and I didn't even think about it at the time, but he noticed that the USB socket, it's a dual USB socket that was in it, was very much old school. In my mind, USB is USB, and a dual USB socket is 2 more times a good thing. It contained a 1 amp and a 2.1 amp, and that was, to my mind, perfectly capable of handling any USB power requirements that I could throw at it. Now, I know I had a power pole system built into this, but USB, I didn't really give too much thought about it. Well, I was wrong. You see, I hate to admit that I was wrong, and I got to tell you, though, this happens very seldom, and I'm willing to confess any sort of error or mistake on my part, mind you. But bottom line is that the power requirement, I found out that there are different types like USB-C and other things, and I put a chart on the Facebook page. I didn't know that the power requirements have evolved that high. And the USB socket that I put on there, which I thought was perfectly capable, is not only so old school, it's like you remember the old IBM Selectrics? You can't see anymore. It doesn't really do much good anymore anyway. The USB would barely power anything at this stage of the game. So I thought I was being, having a real cool thing when in fact functionality-wise, with modern technology and the device requirements today, I never considered the more advanced USB requirements. So all that to say the following. Have you ever built a ham radio item and discovered that you didn't bother consider changes in technology? You perhaps utilized an outdated part or bought an outdated device that is best for perhaps securing a boat anchor? Well, this is not quite that severe, but nonetheless, that aspect of what I built pretty much is going to be very limited in terms of functionality, which is something that I'll have to work on changing out. And I hate to throw money after it again, but nonetheless, it's got to be right. And I'm not going to be satisfied, and I'm sure you wouldn't be either if you built something that you want to make sure it's right. So anywhere from software to hardware, what lessons have you learned, like me, that it might look like it's going to work, it might look cool, and then discover, well, looks can be deceiving. So this is time to fess up. Let's not get too carried away, though, because we have a limited amount of time. We don't want to know what's happened in your last 50 or 60 years. Just take one or two examples and let us know some of the lessons you've learned, sometimes the hard way, and sometimes the care way, from the caring folks at NO Power who pointed it out for me. So stand by, and I'll start with Jerry and work my way down the list. If you haven't checked in yet to Net at 9, now's the time to do so. Please do so now with your call sign, first name. Let's go to Jerry, KD6JBL. Hey, Jerry. Hopefully you can feel me on this thing here. Of what I did was, something that I could have done a better job on. How about you? Have you ever experienced that type of thing where something didn't necessarily meet your expectations or the most current, and then discover later when it was too late? What do you think, Jerry?
Well, that's a good question, which I have no knowledge of at all, but you're talking about a Go box, so, most of my remote is done through either a camper battery or a car battery, that kind of a thing. I don't have a Go box where you're working in the middle of no man's land with nothing, so I don't have much of that at all. I do have a 1K small generator. I thought I'd take along when necessary, but that's about it. That's about it. Don't have much more to. I can't sort of lighten the load and broaden your horizon, so to speak. So that's all. That's all the input I have, really. I do have one little Go pack here, but it's really just it's nothing. So yeah, you did good. You've done your homework way before I got into it, and I have yet to get into that area. KD6JBL 73 the group. Back to you.
So, Jerry, to be clear, I'm not necessarily talking about Go boxes tonight. That's not my intent. My intent is to fess up. Hey, you build something that didn't necessarily, that you thought was really cool, thought that would function, and then later on, as soon as you did the build, realized you made a mistake. And it's time to fess up. So I want to hear people willing to confess, to fess up. One of the things that probably happened to you, Jerry, is that, which is very much a ham-related aspect or support, is maybe made a batch of cookies that didn't necessarily go over too well, like maybe, I don't know, ginger and jalapenos together on something like that. Maybe that might have been the situation. Maybe Jim might know more about that. We're going to go to him in just a minute here and find out. We're not talking cookies, Jim. We're really talking about maybe things, devices. But you know what? If you feel it in your heart you have to share about a bad cookie batch, we're willing to listen, as long as we get some good cookies the next time we see you. So hold on just a moment. Double check. Last call for second round for late check-ins. Please identify call sign, first name. All right, I thought I saw some things come up on Echolink, but nonetheless, let's move on. KB6TKA, Jim?
KB6TK. Well, the only reason I have a Go box is you pretty much took care of it. I got the box, and you put it all together for me and all that. I appreciate that for sure. As far as radio related, other things, I can't think of anything. Not that I would did everything perfectly, but I can't think of anything even in the past. I probably messed up somewhere, but off the top of my head. Real quick story about you talking about cookies. I did a batch of chocolate chip last year. So I put them in the oven, and I'm looking interested. Something's weird. It's bubbling. They don't bubble. They just sort of rise and cook real nice. And long story short, I put everything together, but I forgot to put flour in it. Man, yes, tomorrow I'm baking. I'll see you Wednesday. KB6TK.
That would certainly do it, Jim. And when we built Jim's his power box, or Go box, so to speak, we later on ran into a problem with the battery charger. We built a built-in battery charger in the thing, and it got so hot that the part of the glue that we used to connect it into the case melted right off of it. and that had to be something we changed right away. So there's always lessons to be learned, but in my example, and it's not necessarily, again, related to just, to-go boxes, is, be cognizant of changes in technology. And if we're going to build something, we want to make sure it's going to last for some time. What has been some of your experiences? Milt, N6MG, you're up next, my friend.
N6MG returning. Oh boy, where do I start? Because I love to homebrew and I love to build stuff and spend far too much time out here in my shop doing that. But, not so much built things and then discovered that they were out of date. It's kind of, a lot of what I build and come up with is just because I can, like the little Anderson power pole distribution boxes that I was making and things like that. It's just built it, not being that it's any better, it's just kind of unique, and I enjoy building them and, spreading them around. I have a lot of projects that I do get into that I'll reach, a brick wall, and I don't want to say retreat. I just advance in a different direction, an alternate direction, and set it down. I've got a, big plastic tub here marked work in progress, and inside that tub is a lot of parts and stuff, and, some of it I'll revisit, or some of it I'll go because I know parts are in there that I need, but that's about it. Jim, I wanted to, if I may direct to him, I made some of my famous brown bottom chocolate chip cookies today. Man, were they good. And I can tell when they're done just by the smell in the kitchen, you know what I mean? So I enjoy them. Sandy's not much on them. I told her about your jalapeno chocolate chip cookies, and she's intrigued by that. So at any rate, that's about all from here. Like I said, not so much build stuff that I is out of date when I get it, by the time I get it done. It's just, state of the art's so far passed me by, that I don't fool with anything solid state. I don't do any more board level soldering that I used to just dive into, and so that's about it. Primary thing here is to remember which end of that iron to pick up. So back to net, W6ETC N6MG.
Oh, great comments, Milt. And by the way, synthetic rubber was found by a mistake, and it changed the world. And sometimes mistakes can change the way we look at things. It could be for the good as well as for the bad. In Jim's case, since he's a neighbor, I happen to know something that evolved on something that was supposed to be peanut brittle, which was what you mentioned, Milt, the chocolate jalapeno cookie actually was meant to be a chocolate jalapeno peanut brittle, which is, I'm telling you, the best tasting, if you want to call it a cookie or whatever you want to call it, a mound or a pile or whatever, it is the most, doggone it, Jim, you got to make me a batch here pretty soon. Just talking about it, I'm salivating here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this net tonight. Holy shamoly. All right, Steve, maybe you can save me. AJ6, Tango Lima. Steve, what's your thought?
All I've been doing over here is thinking to myself, where do I start? I mean, there's like, I think we've all made all kinds of, mistakes in various ways, things of one nature or another. But for me, it was funny. You guys had you guys had a net, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. It was shortly after I got my license. And one of the things you guys talked about is kind of taking, baby steps, as far as progressing in the hobby and, taking on new things and getting new things. And I was doing the complete opposite. I was buying hardware left and right. And as long as the wife didn't say no, it was coming in a package in UPS the next day. But anyways, I ended up with a lot of hardware that, frankly, in retrospect, I probably would have done it differently now that I know what I know today. But I'm still learning, and Let me reset real quick. And then relatively recently, I bought that switching power supply, which turns out to be, completely useless for what I wanted to do. And so I was using car batteries in the backyard for a while, but that actually leads kind of full circle to your comment about the battery, because that's actually what I want to do, is I want to build a little battery, kind of a portable setup that I could put inside the house, use as my power supply, both at home and abroad. So I guess I'll have to take a look at those pictures on Kara website, make sure I don't make another mistake. Anyways, AJ6 Tango Lima, back to net.
Will do, Stephen. We've all been there. It's a process we all learn. We're still learning today. I'm an expert of nothing when it comes to ham radio. I would rather defer to those that I feel confident are much more. There's a lot of people out there that know a lot more about this than I do. So, I'm still learning very much on the basic side. And, the so-called to-go box that I built, given in this, example, is something more in line for, may not necessarily be for most. It's a 40 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, a little bit on the pricey side, but something I've been kind of saving up for the last couple of years. And actually, if it wasn't for an opportunity to make a swamp out, that would have never happened. So, nonetheless, situations arise that we take an opportunity we need to modernize. And this, what I thought was the most modern, turned out that there's one aspect of it that I need to change. And I need to quit whining about it and take care of it. All right, let me give you the order next. It'll be coming up would be Joe, followed by Dan, Mark, Chris, then Joe, OJB, Jerry, Jerry's already been on, Martin, Doug, Rick, and then Dave, and then I'll open up for additional check-ins. Everybody should have a chance. Stick with me. KD4STN, Dr. Joe.
Well, there's always challenges and everything. My family, they throw challenges at me every day practically, certainly on weekends. So I had to build a bed dresser set over the weekend, and originally I had contracted through Home Depot to get somebody to do the actual building, because my time's kind of limited, but they didn't show up. It's a company that I probably wouldn't recommend anybody use, but in any case, I went ahead and started to do it, which took me pretty much all day Saturday, and of course putting it together, some of the sections didn't fit, so I had to take it all down and rebuild it, and then it still didn't fit, so I had to take my circular saw and kind of start working on the pieces. I think that a lot of these things are assembled like in China, and I don't know, they're just not designed exactly, so I don't know, it's basically I had to work on it all weekend, so it's funny that you mentioned it, because I spent the weekend dealing with it, but so that's where, trying to build stuff sometimes doesn't always work. And I do have actually an IBM Electric at work that's still functional. I've actually worked on it a few times. It's very hard to find an IBM Electric typewriter repair person. I remember 30 years ago there were people that actually specialized in fixing these things. It's all mechanical, but it's a solid piece of machinery. It's all made out of steel. I think it's made in the U.S., and it's a great typewriter. We don't really use them. I use it more as a museum piece, so when I have my young students that come in, they kind of ask, well, what the heck is that thing? And I like to tell them, well, that's an actual typewriter. And when I was in college, I had to use it to write reports and stuff. But if when I was in college, if I had an IBM Electric, that would have been heaven, because I had to use like an old Royal typewriter. But anyways, those were days in the past. So interesting topic. KD4STN, back to net control.
Stand by. We have a stuck mic here, I believe. we go. Thank you, Dr. Joe. We had a kind of a stuck mic there for a minute, but we're good to go now. Yeah, we feel the pain, that's for sure. All right, let's go next to Dan, KN6IPW.
Hey, Tom. I was listening to you talking about your battery box, and you mentioned that some USBs, but I didn't quite catch what the mistake was because maybe I was listening too hard. I have a similar box with a USB connector on it, a dual port, 1 and 1.2. But is there something better? Back to you, KN6IPW.
Okay, I'm no expert, obviously, because that's what I installed on this, but I was clear that a lot of the bottom line is most of the devices that say an iPad or some of the phones today are going to take forever and then some if they even attempt to charge off of the 1 amp or the 2.1 amp. There is much more advanced USB systems out there, and that has evolved dramatically. The illustration I was trying to give, was basically in the dinosaur age compared to where it is today, but it's advanced very quick, not in terms of relationship. So there are a number of sites where I've given a chart, I posted a chart to the Kara Net at 9 Facebook page. But if you have any further questions about this chart or whatever, and you don't have a Facebook account, you can email me. I'll go ahead and give my email out now at this stage of the game. My email is my name at mycallsign.com, Tom at W6ETC.com, and I'll try to be as accommodating as possible. I'll try and give this again at the end. Thank you. Appreciate that as well. And we'll work together on this. Let's see, N6QAP, Mark. N6QAP, W6ETC. Well, maybe Mark had to go. Chris, KS6LEX.
All right there, Tom and the group. Well, Tom, you seen my little green battery box. It just has the most basic binding post coming out the other side because, when I got my first Astron power supply 100 years ago, I had a binding post. That's what you do in ham radio, so I standardized all my equipment for that. And I made a bunch of pigtail things that'll attach to the binding post, one with USB, one with Anderson, one with this, one with a cigarette lighter, or whatever the hell you call it now. And so, if my USB thing become outdated, no problem. Just, it's got a cigarette lighter socket thing there. Just plug in the one that's not outdated there. So it's not really, planning for like future expansion, but just through sheer dumb luck there, it's, I can keep rolling with whatever they want to throw at me, but it's tough keeping up with the stuff there. But the good news is, you don't really have to. You can still be sitting there with tubes, playing CW, and just having a great time. So, if you want to roll with it, go ahead. But you don't feel obligated to. ETC from KF6LEX.
Yeah, that's true. I don't want to sound like I'm whining or whatever, but the whole point is things sometimes change fairly quickly, and simple as a USB port, for crying out loud. The one I have, the 1 amp and the 2.1 amp, is not even on a lot of the charts. That's how old the technology is. A lot of them will start with USB 2, which is typically, from what the chart I've been given, 2.5 watts, which was not even registered on the one I have. The next step is USB 3. We're probably familiar with that, which is typically 4.5 watts, which is twice the power requirements of the one I have, more than twice. Then they have what they call USB-C, and then it goes to USB Type-C. Type-C can range anywhere from 15 watts, and to some instances as high as, depending on the device, let's say a laptop, can be 65 watts. I can't imagine a USB port doing that, but nonetheless, that does seem to be a USB power range that's available out there. I need something that will work in between, and not something that perhaps is, very limiting, somewhat that started in the dinosaur age. That's my viewpoint on it. I'm sure others out there may have a different viewpoint. But all to illustrate a point, things change. What have you learned? I'm learning. KN6 OJB, Joe?
This is Joe, KM60JB. So, yeah, I bought a bunch of components to build me a battery box. The only thing I haven't settled on is what battery to put in it. And, but, to say that the 1 amp USB ports are obsolete would not be correct, because that's what the Apple iPhones use to charge. They come with that little cube, and all that is a 1 amp output, 5 volts at 1 amp. So, I don't know. I've got several of those, and my cigarette lighter USB ports. I got one. It's got a 1 amp on it. I've got another. It's got 2 ports. One's a 1, and I think the other one's a 2.5. Or I'm not sure. Maybe just a 2. But anyways, yeah, I've got the battery box. The box, I've got 2 of them. I got a metal box, I got a plastic one. Not sure which one I want to use. I got a bunch of components that I can drill a bunch of holes in, put those in there. One's a cigarette lighter, one's a USB. I got a voltmeter, switch, on and off switch, and I think there was one other item I have there. But anyways, this is Joe, KM60JB, 7-3's off. Back to Tom.
Now, I'm not trying to confuse anybody. I know I said amp and I said watt later. I mean, that can be a bit confusing. But Joe, you've done both. You've made me feel bad. You made me feel good at the same time. I'm not trying to infer that anybody that has these devices ought to take them and throw them. But it was interesting that there are, with my goal of trying to have the most potentially current and be able to provide enough power, being that 40 amp hour for a variety of devices, it was a little bit discouraging to learn that, I wasn't even in the ballpark, at least according to some of the experts out there that I consider I value their expertise. Nonetheless, I gave a disclaimer that I'm no expert in this, and I'm learning as I go. But, don't throw the stuff away, and if it'll work for the phone, it's hard to say, if it works, great. Why change it, right? But, what have you learned? Martin, you're up next, N7, CYG.
Well, nothing else to add, just listening. Hope I can come across a chin pull to pull the rest of my round 45 down. A task in the old days, you used to have antenna parties. I guess that doesn't happen anymore. But it is what it is. Anyway, I keep on listening. Thank you. Good evening, N7 CYG.
If someone has an idea for Martin, they can contact me at my call sign at my my name at my call sign, Tom at W6ETC.com. And Martin, you can also connect with me. Send me an email so I have yours. And if something comes up, I'll still try and do some fishing for you, Martin. Hopefully you'll come up with something that'll work out for you. Doug, 84AL, what are your thoughts?
Okay, Tom. Well, I haven't really built many things that, didn't work. I mean, I built a Heath kit for my first ham station back in the late 70s, and, of course, all that is by the numbers. You solder this to that and do this and that, and there's not really any consideration of design problems because they've worked it all out, and it's just a matter of putting it together. I'm sure I've messed up in certain areas as far as putting equipment or attaching equipment together, but I can't think of any specific instance at the moment. I know that, with all these different USB standards, we've got to be careful what we're hooking to what, because, we might be trying to power a device from a USB bus that can't supply the amount of power like you were inferring before. So, yeah, I've got a bunch of cables around here. I think most of my problem is connectivity, in that sometimes my cables get dirt or crud or oxidation or something on them, and I seem to often have to go in and take the oxid and clean the connectors off because something wasn't working right. That seems to be more of a problem for me. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Sorry I couldn't elaborate further on the problems that you're describing, but I just don't have much experience with it. AD4AL, back to net.
Well, actually, what you said encourages me, Doug. And I'm not looking for anybody to agree, to disagree or to agree with what I'm saying. Just maybe relate to the fact that when we do home brewing, sometimes it's a process of learning, and we don't always do something 100% correct. And sure, we might be able to get by for some time, but this was the best current example I could give you. Most of the battery boxes or to-go boxes I've built have been in ammo cases, either a 30 caliber or 50 caliber plastic ammo box, and they usually fit well for the type of batteries that I buy. This is the biggest one I built thus far, and the one that was most important to me to get it right, and that's why I gave that an example. Rick, KK6EUH, the 50th anniversary guy. What's your thoughts?
Well, I've made some mistakes along the way. They haven't been real big ones. I put together a power supply for running my mobile radio in the shack, and made provision. I think I put 4 power pole outputs on it, and that wasn't enough because as things have gone along, there are times I like to plug more in, and I made the mistake of having one of those be one where the 2 pairs of power poles were Siamese together, which means if I'm going to plug into that, I have to Siamese up the other 2 plugs, which are independent devices usually. So that wasn't too cool of a device, but not too bad. And then I built a gadget that lets me use a computer gaming headset on my mobile radio. Really good for taking net control when I do, with a foot switch and the headset mic there. And 2 things I should have done a little differently on that. One of the headphone jacks that I built into the box was defective, and I didn't check it in advance. And I had an issue of, do I file it down so that the plug will go in a little bit further? And the risk was, and it did occur, that now the plug goes in a little bit too far, so I've got to play games with that. And I put a push-button switch on there for push-to-talk with a push-button, and never used it. So if I had thought far enough ahead, the foot switch would have been everything. Just a couple of examples there, but yeah, things do happen. KK6CUH. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Rick, and again, congratulations. Dave, KG6GIA.
KG6GIA, Dave, in the group with you there, Tom. Boy, I learned a lot from your whatever. That's very interesting. I don't know if I have any other than my Type-C phone. I don't know if I have anything that draws like that, but no, it totally makes sense, and I feel for you. I went through something like that with trying to put together what I thought was block components, and I'd buy an item and then hook it into another item, and it seemed to be pretty straightforward, square block, square hole kind of thing, and all of a sudden it wouldn't work, and I was like, I must be going crazy. I must have gremlins. I must need to call Tom's brother over here with his equipment, figure out what kind of interdimensional creatures are eating away at my ham skills here, because I just couldn't figure it out. Reset. And so I started looking at components. It was a solar power cell that was supposed to simply hook into a controller and then simply go into a battery. And it just, to me, it looked so generic. I felt silly and foolish, and I put it away and would dig it out and attack it, and then put it away and attack it, put it away. A couple of years went by, and I figured out that the Duco brand solar panels are reverse polarity. And if you're going to hook them in, and those are made in Japan, if you're going to hook those to American products, you have to reverse the polarity. And I just felt stupid, because I had a bunch of American components, and they ran fine. It's block units like you build an old block radio set. And then all of a sudden I tried to add something new and more powerful, and it was so opposite that it was incompatible. So what I ended up doing was I built a totally Japanese compatible unit and then a totally American compatible unit. But in the process of problem solving, I can't tell you how important a basic voltmeter, the most basic voltmeter you can get, let alone, make your own kind of, to that point, and sit there, do continuity checks, polarity checks, watch the not digital dial, but very analog, little wire go up and down, and it's like, oh, well, that's reverse power for sure. But it was like stuff I'd learned in basic electronics back during the war, and you're like, boy, I'm glad I learned this stuff, because that would have just drove me to the point of throwing it in the trash. And I like getting hand-me-downs, and that's how I got into this whole thing. Was I hate it when people throw away anything, any kind of electronics. I like to tear it apart and make something new out of it. Just, I don't know. Something drives me to do that. So I'm glad you shared that with me, Tom, on that power cell and power distribution issue, because I'm sure I'm right about there now. KG6GIA, back over to you.
We just heard station ID, and let me ID. This is Tom, Whiskey 6 Echo Tango Charlie. You're listening to Kara, Net at 9 Amateur Radio Wellness and Support Net. We've gone through the list as I have it. We're going to also open up for additional comments as well as additional late check-ins, but just if you allow me, some of us here, I know a few operators or engineers have a lot of education and expertise in this field, especially when it comes to, product design and systems design. And I'm kind of basic in the sense, I think that, I built something that with an intended use in mind, and I was hoping that whatever I built would not only meet but it could possibly exceed the intended use. And most of what I built has done that with the smaller versions of this. But this larger size puppy, so to speak, I intended it to be a lot more current, and was kind of shocked that I didn't know these changes in the USB side of things, and I just wanted to kind of share that. And I'm sure that it's relatable to other things in ham radio or in electronics, and that's one area that I have a lot of learning to do for sure. All right, this is now a time I open it up for comments or late check-ins. Please identify call sign name.
KN6IPW with a comment.
KN6IPW, W6CTC, go ahead, sir.
I remember what my other two questions were from the beginning, not to take away from the tonight's round 2 topic, but For the Monday night net, is that a net that has certain topics, or is that just random topics? What's the typical topics for the Monday night net? And second question is, when the two Kara repeaters aren't linked, are they open use for members, or is there any protocol for either of those nets when they're repeaters when they're not linked? Thank you, KN6IPW.
Start with the first one first. The Kara Monday night, the 7 o'clock net, as found on the Kara net, on the Kara website, there is no topic. It's strictly a check-in only. And they have a large quantity of check-ins. The first thing they do is play the ARRL newswire, and then they'll start the process. There'll be someone who will then take the check-ins, and that's for purposes of a lot of people haven't done the push to talk like you guys have on tonight's net, for example, and other nets. But this particular net is controlled by net control, but it's more or less, are you A through B, then you check in, whatever when it's your turn to check in, you do that. And then, you're discovered at that point in time, whether they break it down by members and others, non-members later on. Everybody has a chance to check in. It kind of shows the distance of the repeater and practice for those who get very little practice. On your second part, open repeaters, linked or unlinked, it doesn't change. They're all open repeaters, to my knowledge. So the link aspect of the repeaters, when we link two different kinds, like we do for tonight's net, the 1.25 or 222 megahertz frequency, or the 2-meter net, the 2-meter repeater, they're linked together for the convenience of its operators. Also, just for your information, the 1.25 meter is where Echolink comes into the system. So that allows for Net at 9 to be able to talk with those who come in through Echolink or All-Star. So because those two repeaters are linked, we have a wide opportunity for other operators to join us, whether they are on a radio or not. And that's a blessing. Hopefully I've answered your questions you have for you. IPW, do you have any follow-up questions on that?
No, thank you. That was a very good answer, and I'm completely clear on that. Back to you, Net Control, KN6IPW.
Tom, W6CTC here. Any other questions or comments? Please ID by call sign.
KK6EUH.
KK6EUH, Rick, go ahead, sir.
Don't know whether there's anybody on the net tonight who is not aware, because I have mentioned it before, but I'll do it again just in case. For people looking for not only repeaters, but the dates and times of nets on those repeaters, as well as a whole lot of other cool ham stuff. EdsRadio.com is a great resource that I use whenever I'm looking for something like that. That is Echo Delta Sierra Radio.com. EUH back to net.
Yeah, the AA6ED EdsRadio.com site provides amateur radio resources for the greater Los Angeles area, including counties of LA, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino. Cool. Always good to have these type of resources, and thanks for sharing that. Any other comments or late check-ins, please ID.
KG6GIA.
KG6GIA, sir, go ahead. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tom, and the group. One last thing, not completely related to ham radio. Tomorrow we'll be leaving from Vandenberg a DART rocket which will go to attack an asteroid as a practice research test. And if you all go and look it up, it should be tomorrow evening. a rocket leaving from Vandenberg Air Force Base as a test module to attack a known asteroid target for doing research on asteroid descent. And you should be able to see something if the weather is good. KG6GIA Dave and Orange.